Daniel, why are we in my garden?
We are in the garden because we have some topics coming up that are lifting. We wanted to be outside of the normal studio shooting. We wanted to be surrounded by the things that genuinely create happiness.
That's right. Being out in nature is about being in harmony with yourself because you are natural, and how you show up in your authentic self is being natural. And we are always on this path in this search for God. Is God somewhere out there? Is God in this tree? Is God in the ground? Is God somebody in the clouds, in the sky? But God is in us. God is our awareness. And the way that we express the God in us is through our imagination, through our speech, through our actions. And we want to bring you these next few episodes with a sense of nature, a sense of who you are, and take all these abstract concepts and wrap them up so that way you can finally awaken yourself and begin your daily process of enlightenment. So now we're going to talk about asking. What does that mean, asking? We're not just talking about asking someone to do something for us, but it's really asking ourselves, the universe, this world that we're living in, to show us our heart's desires, to show us our truest nature. And we're always asking questions. And good questions pave new pathways to our ideal lives. And we want to help you explore the concept of asking and asking good questions. I gave you a book, Great Leaders Ask Good Questions. Tell us a little bit about what you went through when you started to read that book.
When I started to read this book, it was a big eye-opener to me. No question is dumb. No question is too small. No question is too big. And no question is ignorant. Because what we all know is on different levels. So you can't be afraid to ask that question, to enlighten yourself, to really get more information. And as he says in this book, the author states, I went golfing. And a lot of people don't know how to ask questions. And I was like, that's so true. And he was like, just like I couldn't ask them questions about business, they couldn't ask me questions about golfing. And he said, but the only way to mix these two is by asking questions, period. To get to know the subject, to get to understand things. So how I interpret all of this, and I'm not completely finished with the book, but I interpret it by saying, I need to ask a question to educate. I need to ask a question to understand. I need to ask a question to help other people understand. Because if you ask a question, you get knowledge on something. And then if somebody comes back and asks you a question, you can then educate them on that subject you learned about. But if I ask Leslie today, Leslie, how tall is your grass? It's funny. But to me, I really don't know. So she could say my grass is 3 inches high. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, it's a great height, it looks measurable, and then maybe her husband asked me, well, how tall would you cut your grass? I would say 3 inches. It's a nice height, it's a good color, it's not burnt. To most people, that's a silly question, but it's a realistic question. That's on the outside. But when you ask a question deeper, what makes me happy? What is love? How do I be there? How do I show up? Those questions are the deeper questions. So by asking questions on the surface, it's going to help you be able to understand and interpret the questions you're asking yourself on the inside.
Right. Well, one of the things that people are afraid to do is ask questions. They're afraid to look dumb. They're afraid to feel ashamed. They're afraid to look ignorant. And sometimes people are afraid to ask questions because they're afraid to cause pain, discomfort in others. Asking questions opens doors to worlds you didn't even know existed, dimensions of of knowledge, and they bring to you that which you seek. We've said in a previous episode in Thoughts and Speaking to the Universe that when you say something, even when you pose it in the form of a question, the universe always provides you the answer. And in every question, there is an answer. So we have to get to that courage, that point of awareness to ask questions. We all ask the same questions. Why me? Why now? Why did this happen? Why my parents? Why was I born to my parents? Why did this happen? Why did I lose so-and-so? We ask the same questions. And the universe, life, our interactions with others, the situations that we experience are always trying to give us those answers. But asking requires us to become aware when the answer is being presented. And sometimes we don't always get the answer that we want, and we don't always get it delivered in a nice UPS package on our front door. Sometimes we have to become acutely aware of when an answer is being delivered. Does so-and-so love me? If that person cheats on you, that's an unequivocal no. Is this job right for me? You didn't get hired. That's a no. So the questions that we ask are always being answered, but the problem is that we are not receptive to the answers. And the question is, are you ready to become receptive to the answers that life is always giving you? We just had an experience earlier in this garden where Daniel read my husband, and he was having a hard time with something in his life. And the basis of our work as intuitive people, as we're all intuitive, is to ask good questions from the people that we're reading, to ask the good questions to the spirits that come forward, and to begin to open up a concept. Perhaps you feel inside of your stomach here some pain. What's the first thing that many of us would do? Probably reach for the Pepto-Bismol, call the doctor, go lay down. Maybe we get a headache. We want to go pop a pill, go drink something, go lay down, take a nap. The first thing when we're experiencing pain and discomfort is not to just medicate it. It's to start confronting it and asking questions. Why do I feel this way? When did this first happen? And when clients come into my office, I always ask them questions. And the first important question is, what do I want to know? What do I want to change? What do I want to heal? And what do I want to let go of? These types of questions are being brought forward through the pain we experience, the suffering that we've known in our lives, and they help us to get the answers and extract the wisdom out of every experience of our life. Now, Daniel, we just met a week ago. Mm-hmm. And when you called me to get to this point of all the episodes that we filmed together, what kind of questions have you learned to ask when facing adversity or unsure moments?
I always ask deep questions, such as yesterday. Am I the one that caused the discomfort? Does it begin with me? Then I have to get into more detail with things. It depends on the situation, the scenario. I ask, am I ready for this? That was a big one. Then I asked more questions that stuck out. Who is this? What is this? Why are you here? I ask all these intense questions. The biggest question I feel like I need to start asking is, how are you going to help me in order to help somebody else?
Yeah, when you ask a spirit.
Yeah. And I think for me, asking questions in the beginning was difficult. The type of questions, it's hard to say because it's depending on the situation, how things work out. But you always want to ask yourself in-depth questions. Mm-hmm. Questions that are going to lead you to an answer. Because a lot of things happen in life when we ask shallow questions because we're nervous. Mm-hmm. And in the name of the game, you and I both know, it's got to be deep questions, uncomfortable questions.
Direct questions.
Direct questions. And I think just through the last few, as we filmed this, the last few episodes, I found myself more and more and more. Although I knew myself, I was able to go in depth with myself. And I was able to ask myself these questions.
Okay.
What's going on with you? Have you put the past behind you? Are you ready to ask for forgiveness? So many different things and so many different aspects. I had to ask these tough questions.
Yeah.
And it happened. I grew the courage to do it. And now I have the courage to help somebody else, such as what we just went through.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to ask somebody else also those uncomfortable questions to get to the root of the cause.
Yeah.
And then once you're at the root of the cause, you can just dissect it.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and ask the questions to the outer person. And it brings you to a solution.
Right. Asking good questions brings you closer to the people in your lives. Asking good questions brings you a greater awareness of yourself. And asking good questions helps you to get better and better, to improve the processes of your life, to clarify your logic, to change your logic, and to help you question your beliefs. When I coach people, or even read people, or interact with people, questions, no matter how direct, no matter how painful they might be, help to build intimacy with the person that I'm working with, the person that I love. It's not always easy to ask difficult questions because people can become enraged, they can block you out, they can react in a way, or even they can lie to you. I've asked questions to people I've known and they've full on lied to me and I've known it. We can delude ourselves sometime. We can run away. And we've talked about this in the episode of running away and starting over. Asking good questions should be a fundamental skill in your life. Because when you ask good questions, then the answers become clear. When you ask questions of other people, the honesty starts to come out. And asking good questions will help you to give peace and clarity in your life in moments of unsurety. So never be afraid to ask good questions, because asking good questions can protect you from nefarious dealings, from bad deals, from bad situations. Asking good questions can be a way of protecting yourself, helping yourself, and guiding yourself through uncertain times.
That's good. That hits the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Questions. Asking questions. I always ask myself the who, what, when, why, and where.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are what we're taught. Those are our comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
Those are everything that people look into to think to answer a problem. But when you really get down to it, you have to be deeper.
Yep.
You have to be specific.
Yeah.
You have to understand what's going on. In order to understand what's going on, that question has to be specific.
Yeah.
How did it happen? Okay, you told me how it happened. What happened? What did this cause it to happen? You just have to dig and dissect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing of understanding, because even 2 years ago, I would have never asked myself a hard question. I would have never been honest with myself. I would have never tried to problem solve. I just accepted what was in front of me. But now I know there are bigger things to ask, because it puts you at ease.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask that question and you dig deep inside of it, you kind of have to be like, why am I feeling like this? What's going on around me to make me feel like this? Is something showing me a sign because my stomach is in pain? Those are the type of questions you need to know. Those are the type of questions you need to ask. Mine are on a learning level of getting deeper. But as time goes on, you start to learn and you start to progress with your asking. It's just like asking a mom for a cookie. Mom, can I have a cookie? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. You want a cookie? Well, what if your mom has 12 different cookies? Well, I want a chocolate chip cookie. What if your mom has 4 different types of chocolate chip cookies? You have to go deeper to get to the solution of it.
Right.
And that's the easiest way I can put it for viewers, because there are so many different types of questions, and I've learned that over a course of a week now to find everything I'm putting together. But as the author said, there are no stupid questions. Don't be afraid to ask that question. Don't be afraid to look dumb to ask that question, because you're not ignorant. You just don't know.
Yeah. And we want to know.
Mm-hmm.
We're curious beings. We always want to know. We're always on this path of enlightenment and growing awareness, and we're always expanding that. And I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, you know, the greater the circumference of my wisdom and my knowledge, that means the greater the circumference of my ignorance. Right? because it means that this may be bigger and you may know more, but there's so much more out there you don't know. So we're always wanting to expand our worlds by asking good questions. And for me, and a lot of people, and I want to speak to people who maybe might be feeling illnesses, mysterious aches and pains, especially in the world of energy healing and energy psychology. If you're feeling pains in your body, most of the time it's either a mental issue, a spiritual issue, or an emotional issue. Now, my book, The Money Formula, touched on the subconscious issues, but there's also mental issues that might be errors in your logic, things, a thought form that you might be assuming in your body that might be causing you a neck pain. And even on the spiritual level, maybe it's past life. Maybe it is a spiritual connection to a person that's unresolved. And we might feel some pains in our bodies or in our neck or in our head, might be dealing with an illness. Now, I always ask people who come to me when they're experiencing physical symptoms is, let's start talking to it. Let's talk to the pain. What does it have to say? When did it begin? Who is it connected to? Is it your energy? Is it an energy you took from somebody else and put inside your body as an empath? We're always examining that. And once we start to just ask the questions, the answers appear to itself. The knowledge, the wisdom starts to grow, and then the pain starts to subside. Because we've said before in previous episodes that your body is a way of communicating to your conscious mind. So this is just one of the many things that we've taught you. But it's important to start asking questions, to explore the world around you, to explore your relationships, your sense of being itself. No matter what your philosophy, your religious background, or scientific method might be, it doesn't really matter. Asking good questions is at the fundamental element of any type of philosophy or background. And if your religion or your club, or if your group, or if your science, or whatever it is that you believe in isn't giving you the answers that you feel in your heart to be true, it's time to start looking somewhere else to get your answers.
Time to start asking.
And don't just believe us. Start asking yourself. Start exploring. You can ask us questions too. We might not have the answers that you want, but believe you'll always get them in the ways that you need to experience them.
So ask yourself, am I asking myself questions? Are my questions shallow? Do I feel dumb while asking questions? Those are all questions you need to ask to yourself, because asking is okay. It's perfectly normal. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big, and nothing is too dumb. Mm-hmm. We'd like to know, are you asking these questions? Let us know.
Yeah, and one more thing. Be brave enough to get answers to the questions that you don't like. Be brave enough to accept a no. Mm-hmm. Be brave enough to accept an answer that you're not going to like. It's okay. Because one day you're going to ask more questions and you're going to be able to get the answers that you not want, but need. Thanks for joining us. You have to ask yourself, am I putting an if and then? Am I putting conditions to my life? Because if you do, that's a symptom of doubt. If I don't overcompensate in my relationship, that person will not stay around.
You need to trust yourself in the process you're walking through. Because without that trust, you're not able to put one foot in front of the other. You always stumble, which then leads to falling.
We all have heard the devil of doubt inside of our mind saying, you can't do this. Why are you going to write that book? No one wants to read it. No one's going to help you.